All right, hey guys, this is Mrs. McKenna here, and I'm just going to walk you through the next portion of the course that you're going to be doing over the next basically week or so. So if you guys are looking at the screen video right now, you can see that I've gone in and created a folder called Gothic Literature Writing Assignment. This is going to fit into that Gothic literature, the dark side of Romanticism, that you guys just completed and took the test over earlier this week or late last week. And you're going to be writing a literary analysis essay over a piece of your choice. So you can choose to write your analysis essay over Moby Dick, which you're about to read starting in the next day. You can choose to write it over The Black Cat or The Raven or The Devil and Tom Walker. You could potentially do it over The Scarlet Letter, although we didn't read enough in class for you to really have a great foundation for that since we just watched the video instead. So I would recommend choosing Moby Dick, The Devil and Tom Walker, or one of the two Edgar Allan Poe pieces, The Raven or Black Cat. So in order to prep for this, you will want to go ahead and finish the reading over Moby Dick. I've added this link here with a dramatic reading of it so that you can listen to it as you read. I've created this folder right here, the Moby Dick analysis, which has the questions that you're going to answer over the piece after you've read it. To Google Docs, you should see that you're able to create your own submission, but just to look at this briefly, there's another separate video I'm going to show you in just a second that has analysis of these questions so that you can listen to those and sort of use them to help you answer the questions. But you are going to look at this primary information right here, a summary of the novel, the characters, and then there are 4 questions that follow that. So you're going to respond and think critically about these questions, everything from why Ahab might be blasphemous to how this story represents the dark side of Romanticism. So those are going to be the questions that you answer after you finish reading the piece. Keep in mind that you're only reading in your book from where it says it drew near the close of the day at the top of page 285 to when it says truth hath no confines on page 288. So you're really only covering about 2.5 pages of material. You're going to use that for the basis of your writing for this if you choose it, or just and simply to answer that assignment. So back to the analysis. You are going to then look at this discussion of the analysis questions after reading this and then opening these questions up. I've basically gone through and for each of the 4 questions, I've given you sort of my thoughts and ideas about it because the piece is not cut and dry. You can listen to that and use that to help you answer your analysis questions. The next thing you're going to do, you can see that on the 6th is this essay prompt. So if you open up the essay prompt again, it's going to go to a Google Doc. We'll look through that. You're going to choose which of the 4 pieces you'd like to focus on. And you are going to put together this planning document for writing that essay. So you'll notice that this says a literary analysis paper for any of the pieces that we read during Gothic literature. So an analysis is essentially that you're breaking the literature down into parts. You're evaluating 3 specific things. I'm going to ask you to look at themes or literary elements to help prove why your piece is a dark romantic piece. If you look at the next section, it says the steps for writing about literature are everything from stating your opinion to providing examples for that. And then you can see that these are the possible literary analysis thesis or ideas that you'll use to frame that particular piece. So if you look at the 3 ideas, one of the things you may choose to prove is how Melville shows Ahab, or the captain's, belief that Moby Dick is evil. So the point of your paper is that you're going to find examples of how Ahab it believes that Moby Dick is evil and how that fits into the idea of dark romanticism. It's a second idea might be how the narrator represents insanity in The Black Cat. So if you read through that piece, you know that there were certainly some things off with the narrator. So your paper will focus on why the narrator is insane and what in the short story tells us that. And then finally, another potential idea would be characterization of the devil and Tom Walker. So if you read that carefully, you could see that Tom Walker and his wife were characterized both directly and indirectly by Washington Irving, and just how it is that he chose, or how he used characterization to show those characters. So then the outline for the essay follows right after. You can see that in your introduction, you're going to want to make sure that you include the author's name, the title, and then a brief summary of the piece, and then a thesis statement. So I'm looking for the first sentence of your essay to say something along the lines of, in the novel Moby Dick, Herman Melville explores the dark side of romanticism in the interactions between Ahab and the whale. And that gives me just a real quick intro into what you're going to be talking about. Then you're going to take 2 or 3 sentences to summarize the novel's plot. And finally, you're going to come up with a thesis statement. These 2 thesis statements that I've given you can be used almost word for word if you would like to use them. You'll look and see that there are 2 different examples. The first one focuses on 3 different literary elements, in this case, diction, imagery, and symbolism. So you're going to find examples of diction, imagery, and symbolism that show why Moby Dick is evil through the eyes of Captain Ahab. The second one focuses on also literary elements, but you can see that basically just switch the order. So as shown through symbolism, allegory, and imagery, the narrator in the black cat represents insanity. So essentially, these are the same thing, they're just flipped. This one mentions the literary elements first and then goes into the point. This one mentions the point first and goes into the literary elements. Just as you would expect, you're going to have a body of your essay, 3 paragraphs, the first one representing the first literary element, the second representing the second literary element, and then the third representing the third literary element. Finally, you'll conclude, you'll restate your thesis statement, you'll provide a little more summary or sort of your textual support, and finally you'll leave one last kind of thought about the representation of American Romanticism. In order to help you out, I'm going to ask that you fill out this document. You're going to put the 3 literary elements that you choose, and you're going to list at least 3 examples of those literary elements in each of these boxes so that I can see kind of where you plan to go with your essay before you finish writing it. Okay? So this is just a planning document to help you sort of start putting your ideas into a framework that you'll use to put together the paper. I'm going to post some examples of previous essays that were well written that you can use as a guide for your own. So you'll want to make sure that you look through that and notice where it is. And then if you still have questions, please don't hesitate to come see me. All right. Thank you.